Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dear Diary podcast. I'm your host, Katie, and thank you guys for tuning in and sticking it out for episode 2. I'm so glad you guys are continuing this journey with me today. Now, for the next topic that I really wanted to dive deep into, the first topic of this podcast is called hyper independence. Okay, and I know people probably know the word hyper independence separately, but when you put it together, we got to figure out what it is. And the definition for hyper independence is just with individuals who do not rely on others, avoid asking for help, often reject for support, and even to their detriment, striving for perfection tendencies, trying to be unflawed, and just having these unrealistic expectations on themselves. And boy, when I tell you that sound like somebody I know, and I am referring to myself, I have spent my entire life living under hyper independence. I've learned it. I've seen it. I've seen adults in my life do it and not knowing that that is unhealthy and the trauma that it causes on you as you develop in your life. And if you're an independent woman, make some noise. Shout out to you. And if you're an independent man, make some noise. Because at the end of the day, you've been doing what the best you can with the best you got. And this world, and especially in American society, it is already hard as it is, especially with this inflation. And plus, too, we are known as an individualized society. So a lot of things you have to be out here to do on your own. You have to go out here and get this and go out here and get that and grind. That's what they teach us to do. So when you're being taught this unhealthy way of being independent, it develops into hyper independence. And if this sounds like anything like you, like it is okay. It is no shame in your game. I just want us to be the better version of ourselves and learn from our unhealthy ways and to build better ways, because at the end of the day, stress is real. And I'm not just talking about the stress that they talk about at the job where you get a little stress ball to relieve. No, I am talking about stress that causes hypertension. I am talking about stress that can probably cause a bleeding death. It is so real. And it is so scary, because I think what really made my eyes open is because at my age, I read an article about a woman who died of stress, and she was my age. And it really shocked me, because I'm like, wow, like this emotion and this things that I'm going through and if I don't unpack it in a healthy way, it could really affect my body physically. And that will really wake you up into reality of, I need to get my stuff together, and I need to really look at myself and really figure out, why do I take on all of these things, and why am I doing it in the first place? Like, we have to start off with the reason why. And a lot of the times the reason why is because of the environment that we grew up in. A lot of the times for us, I know for me, especially in the Black community, we lived in survival mode. I don't know about anybody else, but I lived in survival mode. My parents did. And learning from how they lived, I lived the same way. And it was a constant move. It was a constant, I gotta go here no matter what. Neglecting our health, neglecting our feelings, neglecting how, everything that we got going on, just so we can show up and be present for other things and everybody else but ourselves. And even when it came to me just starting simple stuff, even as a child, just always going to school, even if I'm sick, even if I'm not feeling well, even if I'm really mentally drained, still having to go to school, because going to school wasn't an option. Like, you had to go to school. You had to make sure that you was there. It was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Seeing how my parents never took a break, how my father worked late night shifts, he worked morning shifts, midday shifts, night shifts, and he did it all again 7 days out the week, because at the end of the day, he had to provide. He had to make sure it was food in the house, make sure that people was being taken care of. And the last person that he probably thought about was himself. And when you live in that survival mode, it is very hard to do self-care. It is very hard to think about, what do I need? Because the only thing we thinking about what we need is our survival. We need a roof over our head. We need food on our we need food on our table, and we need clothes on our backs. And it is very hard to change someone's mindset when they've been constantly living in that type of mode. And as of today and what it looks like for me, I found myself, because a lot of times hyper independent people, we are mostly helpers. So we put ourselves in the front line every single time. It's like automatically, like we don't even think about us doing it. Like it's been plenty of times where I have told myself, I need to go home, take a deep breath, take a break from everybody. I'm overstimulated, I am overwhelmed, and I am tired, and I need to take a break. But then if somebody come telling me about their story, or somebody come telling me how they need help and calling me, or it's something with chaos, I go right in the front line. I make myself available, and I make sure that I put my best foot forward into helping them and what they got going on, neglecting on what I just said or what I need to do for myself. Even when it comes to me being a grad student. When you're a grad student and you work full time, it is very hard to manage self-care. I know for me it is, because I still struggle with putting myself first. So that's just that. And if you like me, then it's okay, honey. Hashtag me too, right? And with me struggling with all those things, right? And going to school, having to do work, having to work to obviously make ends meet, and then also having to do my schoolwork. And there's no excuses. At the end of the day, this is what I signed up for, correct? But it becomes overwhelming to the point where I find myself neglecting sleep, neglecting time to release all the stress that I had from work. And I work with children, you know what I'm saying? And children alone is a stressor. So when you working with children and you coming home and you going, and I'm not even going home. I'm going straight to school, driving all the way an hour out to school, trying to put myself in a mindset to learn, and then coming all the way back home to make sure that I take care of myself in some type of way by eating and drinking water, and then going back to putting myself in a position to be able to do work. Like, that is a lot. And I know it's other people's schedules that look exactly like mine, or probably even more heavier than mine. And it is hard to find a space where we can literally just be like, woosah, and it's hard. And I will be neglecting sleep. Like, I will be doing my homework and it's past 11 o'clock. I will be still trying to get this discussion post done, and I will still be trying to do this and do that, because I know that this got to get done and this got to get done, not even realizing that I'm neglecting myself, because it's like, okay, Katie, the discussion post ain't due till tomorrow. If it ain't due by today, give yourself a break. And I'm like, no, I got to do it now. And even with that definition I gave you guys, that trying to be a perfectionist, and it will literally wound you if you continue to try to be a perfectionist all the time. And at the end of the day, we are not perfect. We are human, and we are perfectly flawed. And all of those things are okay. But we just have to learn. And when I say we, I'm adding myself in too, because we have to learn how to take care of ourselves. And I know for me as well, just especially in the early adulthood stages, and just being the type of person I am and always making myself available, I find myself in the same cycle over and 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 over again, being so available to the point where I have no space for myself. And it becomes to the point where I get irritated, and I'm constantly just living on anxiety, and just like always just something's gonna happen. I gotta be ready. I gotta do this at all times. Like, my mode is always on go. It's never no rest with me. And when you think about it, that is scary. Like, that is not something that should be awarded on. Like, that's not okay. Like, I know when you go on Instagram, everybody's saying, oh, I grinded hard, I stayed all of this, and I did this, and I had sleepless nights, and don't get me wrong, some things you have to work and work and do, and be in a gutter and do what you got to do to get to where you need to get to. But when we are glamorizing not taking care of ourselves to get to a quote unquote bag, it's like, are you, by the time you probably get there, you probably won't be alive to see the bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure that you are taking care of yourself physically. Like, I found myself moments where I'm so stressed, I carry it in my shoulders naturally. Like, my shoulders are tense and it's up, and I'm like, and when I found that out on, I think I was just watching a YouTube, and they was saying how you can carry stress in your shoulders. And when I just did what they did and put my shoulders in, I was like, I can't believe I've been walking around with 10 shoulders all this time, probably looking crazy. And I'm not realizing what I'm doing to my body. Me staying up all night trying to finish a paper that ain't going to get done no time soon. And knowing that I don't even have the mental capacity to finish this paper, and knowing that I have to get up early in the morning to get ready for work, staying up all night, and then waking up in the morning, I am sleep deprived. And then I'm trying to figure out why I'm almost crashing at the job, or why I'm irritated, or why I'm so antsy. And it's like, you haven't got any sleep. Baby, you barely got 4 hours. Okay? And that is not healthy. And when you constantly do it over and over and over and over again, it becomes to a point where it's like, okay, your body starts to feel it. Like, I know for me as well, I was so stressed that my immune system started to weaken. And it was in the beginning of this year that I've gotten so sick, and it put me down. And usually my immune system is strong. Like, I could get a little cold and I could thug it out for real. But this, it put me down. Like, I had to take off work, and I barely take off work. You know, I barely use my PTO day. So when I had to take off, it really hit me like, dang, Katie, you are sick. When you really gotta go to patient first. And you really gotta be like, oh, this ain't no over the counter medicine. It's giving an antibiotic. That's how you know you need to be sit down somewhere and let your body cool off, because tea and over the counter medicine wasn't working for me. And I realized, like, okay, Katie, we are stressed out. And then I can't even sit here and tell you that I have all this self-actualization or self-realization, because my professor had to tell me about myself. Like, she had to, like, I was telling her what was going on with me, and I just kind of like broke down because I was just going through all this crazy stuff. And she was just like, you need a break. You're stressed. She's like, you're not feeling well. You got a lot on your plate, and then you got here school, and you need to take a break. You need to take off. And when I was telling her the reasons why I couldn't take off, it was because I was so worried about making sure that the classroom runs smoothly, because if I'm not there, then this is that going to happen. Like, just telling her all these excuses. And she basically just told me, like, Katie, you told me everything in regards to other people and not yourself. None of the stuff that you made an excuse for serves you. And it hit me like, oh, that was a word. And it was something that I was not ready to hear. I wanted her to just tell me, I'm so sorry, keep pushing. You know, those cute little messages that people send you, like, you got this, girlie, stay in it. You know, I just want her to tell me that so I can just go about my emotions and go about my day, so I can continue with the cycle. And isn't that so crazy? Like, I would rather continue the cycle than do better for myself. And that is the question of, why do we do it? And I just found myself again like, all right, I got to do better for me, because I know that my mom, she had health issues, and it was things that, you know, like diabetes, and she had cancer and everything like that. And not saying that any of that was stress, but I just know, seeing my mom go through health issues and her dying at an early age. She died at 43. So, and for me, it was like, I don't want to die that young. You know what I'm saying? And even though that wasn't a choice of her, of course, but what I'm saying is, if I have the control to make sure that my health is on point and that I'm okay, then that's something that I need to work on. I gotta be consistent about, because it is way more important to live. And then I had to realize, like, a lot of the times that I'm stressing, especially at these jobs, we be stressing at these jobs when the whole time we don't even want to stay in that position for the rest of our lives. So we over here stressed out, working our butts off, our back hurt. We over here taking ibuprofens, popping them like they over here like Tic Tacs and all that, trying to break our back and try to do what we need to do for a bi-weekly check. And don't get me wrong, obviously it's important, but when I realize it's just like I cannot die off of a position that I don't see myself doing for the rest of my life. Like where I'm at now, if God wants me to be there and stay in there and he will develop me on along the way, then he will do it. But if it's not that and it's the career that I have, the passion for, then I need to be very aware of what I'm doing in the field. Like I gotta be aware. Like I can't be breaking my back for them, because at the end of the day they will replace you quick in a hurry. Oh, Katie got hurt. She ain't gonna be coming in for 5 months because she broke her back over here. Oh, okay, well we're gonna find a replacement, and then hopefully when you come back, you may have a job, you may not, because the position can always be filled, but your life cannot be filled without you in it. Okay, and this world and today, it is so fast paced that sometimes we try to catch up to everything and new trends and all that, stressing ourselves out to be trendy and be cool and stay on top, and not realizing what we're doing to ourselves mentally. You know what I'm saying? Like I know sometimes when some things just feel so constant, it feels like you stuck, and then now you working, now you're trying to figure out different ways to keep moving and keep pushing and get to where you think you need to get to because you saw somebody on Instagram doing that, and it's just like, oh, I need to be doing that. And it's just like, no, babe, you need to be working on you, staying in the field, and just waiting on the time when it's right. Okay, like life is about living, existing. It's not about working hard till your bones fall off. Like I stopped believing in that whole saying on I gotta grind. Absolutely not. I want to live a soft girl life. Okay, I deserve a soft girl life. Okay, I don't believe that God intended us to be on here to work, and not saying that we're not supposed to work, but I don't think he intended us to be these machines. Like we are human. We are born to feel, to live, to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like I just refuse to be living like Squidward in that episode when he just flipping the burgers and doing this with a straight face the whole entire time. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. But I just refuse to live like that. Like I want to experience things. I want to do things. And with working, I want that to be able to provide the lifestyle that I want for myself. And it has to be a balance. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to keep telling myself that, Katie, you deserve a break. Katie, you deserve a day off. Not because you got to do something and you got a doctor's appointment. Absolutely not. You deserve a day off because you deserve a day off. You tired, you can barely get up out the bed. You deserve a day off. And even my girlies at work that decide that they want to run around and not eat. We got to do better than that. You cannot run off of that Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You cannot run off that Starbucks coffee all day, babe. You are crashing. And your eyes are bulking out the side of your skull. You need to go eat. Like you all like, oh, I can't eat because, and I'm calling the girls out at work. Oh, I didn't eat because I got this, X, Y, and Z. Those kids' behavior is going to be the same as they were today. You cannot change it. Go eat. Go drink some water. Like we looking crazy out here. Like, and then we got the nerve to be on Instagram like on the grind, taking a selfie like on the grind. Like, okay. I know you tired. You look sleep deprived. You know what I'm saying? Like you over there glitching and stuff. Like we gotta do better. We have to do better for ourselves. And even when it comes to like mentally, like I'm in therapy, and my therapist be telling me and reminding me all the time about how I need to put myself first, okay? And it should not be hard, okay? I'm going to keep saying that. It should not be hard, but it is, because, like I said, if you lived in that life where you had to live in survival mode, it's kind of like, how you going to sit here and tell me to put myself first when I don't have any other option? And then some people grow up with the mindset of they don't have help, because sometimes when you ask for help, they have the audacity to sit here and hold it and dangle it in your face like, oh, I did this for you and you got to do X, Y, and Z for me. I'm just the type of person where, me personally, I'm not going to give somebody help and then dangle it in their face or make them feel bad about receiving help, because I know at the end of the day, if I'm in that position, I won't want nobody doing that to me. And some of y'all gotta check yourselves and don't put yourself in a position if you can't help, you can't help. Because one thing I also don't like when people do is they will offer help and then they got an attitude. They clocking you. They doing this and they doing that, and it's just like, you know what? If you was gonna have a bad attitude with helping me, you should have just stayed home. You know what I'm saying? You could have just told me no. I'd rather you told me no than you coming over here and giving me this bad vibe. You don't want to help me. You know what I'm saying? Like we gotta really work. Like we gotta think about ourselves. Like, be who you want to be for your support system. If you was to have a support system, be that. And I know there's people out here that take advantage, because you got them people out there that don't want to do nothing for themselves, and they always calling you and asking you for money, and they always got some excuse, and everybody. But it's just like, at the end of the day, everybody got a story. You got a story, they got a story, and at the end of the day, if they ain't doing nothing to really better themselves, and you keep finding yourself stressing out by taking care of that person, like you gotta tell them no. Boundaries. Being hyperpendent, you don't have no boundaries. You gotta place them. Like, it is okay to say no. Like, no was a word that was created to be used, and it doesn't need an explanation. And I wish that I was taught that, because I felt so bad for saying no. I felt so bad for saying no. I'm like, oh, I gotta see, or oh, it's something. Da, 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 da. No. No means no, and I don't need an explanation for it. And I would want people in my life and in my circle to respect my no, just like I would respect yours. And no shouldn't be taken so offensive. Like, it shouldn't be such an offensive word. Like, if we teaching everybody boundaries, then we need to be fair at all game. Because we'll tell somebody to teach somebody boundaries and think somebody's supposed to respect your boundary, but you don't want to respect nobody else's. And that's not fair to nobody. Like, you have to respect people as well. Like, it is all about being treated how you want to be treated. Like, that saying from when we was young goes a long way. And we need to be carrying that out in lives now. Because I feel like a lot of times with hyper independency and just operating in that, we find it hard to rely. We feel like it is unreachable. Like, it is unreachable to get help. Or we feel like it's shame. Like, I don't like how we shame help. Like, and if you think about it in society, like, we shame the homeless and everything for asking and begging and all that. But do you know how much humility it takes to be in that position that you in, and to still go out and show up for yourself, and just hoping and praying that somebody will help you along the way? Like, when you think of stuff like that, it's like, wow. Like, it just makes you see world a little bit differently. And it makes you view that asking for help shouldn't be hard. But we do have people, like the ones that I just mentioned and talked about earlier, that make it hard. And especially when you grew up without a support system, and you've been growing out without a whole life, and it's like slim to none, it is hard to ask for help, because you feel like you got to do everything on your own. And I know for me too, when I moved out on my own, I felt like that responsibility was mine, and I need to make sure that I got to carry it 24/7, which I do. I do not neglect my responsibilities, but I do still deserve a support system. And I say this because it is a lot of people out here, like single parents, people out here that are caretakers, or people that's taking care of other things besides themselves, people who have businesses and all that stuff like that. Yes, you did take those responsibilities. And yes, that's this position that you put yourself in, even when you go to college and all that. Yes, those are the things that you chose, but you still deserve a support system. Everyone deserves a person that they can put their arms out, and if they do a trust fall, that somebody will be right there and there to help them along the way. You deserve that. And don't let nobody ever tell you that you don't, because you do. And I'm a true believer that we were not made to put on this earth to be alone. I believe that we are humans and we operate off of connection. And I do not believe in, oh, I could do this all by myself. No, like, this world is too heavy. Life is too heavy. Life is too much. And we are not meant, I believe that we're not meant on this earth to be doing everything by ourselves. I just don't believe it. Because just how we operate as a community, when you come together as one, when you come together with somebody, you do more than what you can do for yourself, and you succeed more. Like, it's just a multiplying, it's just multiply of success, betterness. Even when we come together as one, we be fighting for our rights and all of that stuff. Like, it's a beautiful sight to see unity. And I think once we really start valuing unity, then hyper independency won't be seen as so much in all these people. And even with relationships, like, it's a lot of people out here that will try to be in relationships and still operate in hyper independency. Like, and I'm gonna use an example for us women. Like, and I know that it comes with a lot of trauma, because it comes with a lot of trauma, and I respect and I understand it. But we also have to unpack it, because we can't be living in our trauma. We can't be living in our past. And if we want better for ourselves, we have to do what? We have to work on ourselves. And when I see a lot of women say, "Oh, I want to be in a relationship. I want this and I want that, but I don't need no man, and I don't need nobody in my life." And it's contradicting, because it's like, when you are in the desire for partnership, then that's what you want. That's what you have a desire for. So when you want a partner, you have to want to be working as partners. You know what I'm saying? Coming together as one. If you operating as two people in a relationship, then what's the point of having an extra person? And when you sit here and say, "Oh, I don't need no man," and I'm not saying that you do. I'm not saying that you do. I put my hands up on that one. I'm not saying that you do, babe. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to be operating as the man and the woman. And that's just for a heterosexual relationship. Even for the other relationships, like, if you and your partner are together, and you are operating in both and trying to do this and do that, like, you make no room for the other person. And then when you trying to do all this other stuff, it's just kind of like, you know what, like, what's the point of me being here? You know what I'm saying? Because I know for me, I want a man. I might not need a man, but I want a man. I have a desire to be in a relationship one day. So it's like, I'm not going to be operating like I'm out here all doing it all alone either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to let my man take my trash out. I just feel like it's some things that is a man's job. Okay? Like, I feel like if I live in a house with a man, I shouldn't be touching the trash. That is old school thought of mine. I shouldn't be building everything by myself. I shouldn't be mounting TVs. I shouldn't be doing all that. Like, when I say, like, I feel like I shouldn't be doing those little things, I shouldn't be doing those little things, okay? But that's just my thought process. Like, I have an example, like, one of my family members, they were with a partner, and they struggled because her partner felt like she was trying to be the man and the woman. And if he can't operate in his role in the relationship, and he feels like it's a constant shutdown, can't have no opinions, y'all can't even go shopping to pick out some home decor, it always got to be her way. You don't know what you talk, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just little petty stuff like that, but it adds up to more, to the point where you don't realize it. As a hyper independent person, you are downplaying when you constantly, everything gotta go your way, and I'm doing this, and if you ain't doing this with me, then you don't, that's not fair, and it's unhealthy. And she found herself doing those things, and her partner was like, I might wipe my hands with you, because you not letting me operate in partnership with you. And if you can do this by yourself, then what am I here for? And we have to make sure that we are opening ourselves up for the things that we desire. Like, if you desire partnership, if you desire friendship, you have to make yourself available. You have to put some of those things down. And a lot of the times you're trying to control your environment. You're trying to control the people, because most of the time you're probably scared they're going to leave you, because you got trauma with that. You probably trying to control everything in the environment, because you ain't never had control, and there's always been chaos in your life. So you trying to control everything, and everything gotta be right, and everything gotta be this, and everything gotta be that. And if it ain't your vision, then it's wrong. And it's just like, come on now. That's not real life. That's not how you operate. That's not fair to you, because you put these high expectations on yourself, and then when you don't succeed in them, you crash. It's not just like, I'm disappointed, but oh well. No, you crash. You crash, you isolate yourself, you get to the point where you just like, I can't do this, like, why me? And it's like, well, that wasn't what you were supposed to do in the first place. Like, you wasn't supposed to operate in that type of way. And not saying that you shouldn't see yourself in the highest light, but when you are trying to accomplish things, you have to give yourself grace, because it's not you. It might not just be your time. You gotta really unpack the reason why you are hyper independent, and really realize what are your triggers. What are the things that make you get into that mode of, it's just me against the world, me versus everybody? Like, we got to figure that out. I had to figure it out, because I found myself operating in that way. And then we complain about how we ain't got nobody, but you ain't allowing nobody to be in your space. You're not allowing help. You got a support system. They tell you all the time. Your people tell you all the time, I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me. And we never reach out to ask for that helping hand. It's shame in that helping hand. You feel embarrassed. You feel ashamed, like, why, like, I'm going out here and asking for help. Like, no. And it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to ask for help and still have respect at the same time, and dignity. You should be asking for help in the most positive way. Like, yes, I need help. Please, I need help. Like, it's okay. It is okay to accept the helping hand. And if you're a believer, and if you're a Christian, and if you are a person that's working in hyper independency, you will understand that you are contradicting yourself. Because if you believe in God, and if you love God, then you will understand that God is in control, not you. So if you out here, I'm controlling this, God, I'm doing this, God, look at me, I'm over here steering the steering wheel, I'm over here doing what I gotta do, and blah blah blah, like, and he probably looking at you like, girl, you need to sit down, babe. You ain't you ain't checking with me in a couple days. No prayer. No, you ain't hearing what I have to say. You ignoring me, operating and doing what you think you're supposed to be doing, but that's not what I called you to do. I didn't tell you to go over there. And then if you go over there and then it don't work out for you on my prayer line, saying, God, why me, and why it didn't work out for me, and it's not even that. It's the simple fact that you ain't listening. You ain't check in. You ain't do your devotional in 2 months. You don't even know where you at emotionally to be taking on another role. Like, we got to be real with ourselves sometimes as Christians and believers. Like, we have to be real. Like, we operating in control for ourselves because we so scared, and we dealing with our trauma, and we holding on tight, and we not realizing what we doing to ourselves and how we are going off track of God's purpose in our life. We so off track, and we think we doing the right thing. And then what's sad is that we get on social media they tell us that we are doing right. They tell us that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Yes, girl, you better work them 3 jobs. Knowing daggone well your doctor told you to sit down. Your knee already hurt. You just realized that you got arthritis in your hands. You need to sit down. You need to sit down. Like, you already know that your therapist told you. Like, my therapist keep reminding me, Katie, do you do check-ins? When I'm going on, I'm spiraling, I'm telling her all my emotions. She told me, Katie, do you do your check-ins? Every other 2 weeks, she got to remind me to do my check-ins because I ain't checked in. Sometimes I pray to God, and I'm so tired, I can't even have a conversation with him. Like, and I know he be looking at me like, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. But one thing about God, God is always good. And he's always with open arms, ready to receive us at all times. And I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for that. But I know that I have to do better because I don't want to have to keep getting off track of my purpose. You know how long God told me to start this podcast? He told me a couple years ago to start it. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that he said that you needed to start it 2 years ago. No. I had to be preparing myself to be ready to be able to speak to people about what I go through. I had to become a little bit more wise before I sit here and tell you guys what to do, what, you know what I'm saying? So he told me, and did I operate in his purpose all the time? Absolutely not. And that's why I have a lot of trials and tribulations because, and I'm not even going to sit here and say because sometimes I'm hard-headed, just because sometimes God puts us in a trial and tribulation for a testimony. And I had to realize that I gotta be open for God too. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about your relationship with God. You gotta be open for Him. You can't just call on God and control God and tell Him, "Oh God, I need you. Oh God, I need you to do this. Oh God, I need you." No, you gotta really have a relationship with Him. You gotta let Him in as well. It's important. It's important to do those type of things. It's important to connect with Him. Figure out what He's saying. Figure out how much He loves you. Once you really realize God's love and how much He values you, you learn how to value yourself. And all of that is to say is that working and operating in hyper independency is something that we have to unpack the reason why and tell ourselves and really work on ourselves to make sure that we don't go back and keep operating in it, because it's not healthy. Physically, it's not healthy for you. Mentally, it's not healthy for you. Emotionally, it's not healthy for you. And we have to do better for ourselves so we can live life how God intended us to do. And not, even if not God, for how you see your life to be. Because I refuse to be 20 years later still asking God, why me? I want to operate in the most healthiest way as possible. Because I want to see life beyond years. I want to see my grandchildren, my babies living life and seeing that their great grandmother was out there working on herself spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally so they can operate in the most healthiest way. Because I do believe that when you operate and you really unpack and you really learn from your old ways and your behaviors and your past trauma, your family trauma and all that, you will be able to really learn how to grow and advance. And it's not always so financially. It is about who you are as an individual on the inside. That's what really matters. And just to end this conversation, I just want to say, if you are going through some things personally, just know that if you have somebody in your corner, don't be afraid. Go to reach out, go talk, go do the things that you need to do that helps you release your stress. Meditate if you need to, journal if you need to, write in your diary if you need to, and tune in if you need to. Tune into the podcast if you need to. Listen to it again if you need to. Remind yourself that you are worthy of a break and you are worthy of a helping hand. And thank you all for tuning in episode 2, and stay tuned for episode 3.